Paddy Pimblett is pushing back hard against the wave of criticism that accused him of disrespecting Dan Hooker's family, especially his mum, in a recent interview. The drama stems from Pimblett hyping his interim lightweight title fight against Gaethje at UFC 324 later this month. He made a dark, crude analogy about Hooker's grappling skills, comparing it to something extreme involving his mum in a way that went viral and drew immediate backlash. In his latest response, Paddy is adamant he never said a single bad word about Dan's mother herself. He argues the real issue is the double standard. While people tore into him for the mum joke, almost no one called out Hooker for bringing up Paddy's deceased friend, Ricky, who passed away in 2022, just hours before Paddy's big win in London. Paddy says Hooker implied he wasn't a good mate, essentially blaming him for what happened, which he finds way below the belt and deeply strange. Paddy doubles down that no matter what he says or does, the MMA world twists it to paint him as the villain. Multiple MMA talking heads have pushed the narrative that if Paddy loses at UFC 324, a fight with Dan Hooker is almost guaranteed next.
I never said nothing bad about his mum. Mrs. Hooker's probably a lovely woman, and I never said a bad word about his mum. But then he goes on and says something about my dead mate who can't defend himself. It was a bit weird. I had my friend's family messaging me saying what's going on here and all that. So, like, the way people have went on about what I said, but no one's condoned what he said and said, what are you doing mentioning someone who's dead, is very, very strange. But, you know, that's the MMA world for you. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, people will make me look like the worst man alive when I just used an analogy for how bad Dan Hooker's grappling is. Dan Hooker's beneath me now, especially when I win this belt. He's 5-5 in his last 10. You don't mention dead people. And that's what Dan Hooker's done. Dan Hooker's mentioned a dead person.
Daniel Cormier is once again entertaining the idea of facing his longtime rival, Jon Jones, this time not in the octagon, but on the wrestling mats under real American freestyle rules, or even in a boxing ring, if it comes to that. The topic blew up in a fresh interview with Ariel Helwani just yesterday, where DC addressed the growing fan buzz around a potential grudge match in the rising RAF promotion. Fans have been clamoring for DC versus Bones ever since RAF started featuring big MMA names in freestyle wrestling bouts, like Armin Sarukian, Colby Covington, and others, while RAF's co-founder has teased its possible thanks to connections through figures like Ben Askren and Izzy Martinez, who is Jones's longtime wrestling coach. DC keeps it real. He doesn't want to compete in general. He's 46, retired from fighting, graying, and happy as a UFC commentator and coach. But when it comes to Jon Jones specifically, the competitive fire is still there. He says he'd absolutely wrestle Jones if Bones wants it. Dana White was asked whether he was aware of the talk, and he said he had no idea, not exactly sounding impressed by the idea either. All right, let's dive into DC's interview.
Listen, to make me and him do anything costs so much money. There's very few people that can actually make it happen. So I don't know if it happens. And, you know, the whole wrestling thing, like, you know, that's cool, man. It's all cool to make pipe dreams, but I don't know that he's willing to allow me to embarrass him on a wrestling mat.
Have they tried? Have they tried to make it happen? Have they reached out to you yet?
No, they haven't. They haven't.
No. Would you not want to work for them in any capacity, like meaning compete because it's Izzy and Izzy's his guy?
I just don't want to wrestle.
Oh, you don't want?
I would wrestle Jon Jones.
Right.
I don't want to wrestle a match. If I wanted to wrestle a match, I wouldn't have retired from wrestling. Sure. But if Jon Jones wants to wrestle, then yeah, I'll go wrestle Jon Jones. I'm not fighting, man. No. I'm not fighting. Look at my face, dude. Look at all this gray.
Hey, you look great.
I would box him, but I'm not fighting.
You would box Jon? I would love to see it.
Why not?
Really?
Yeah. I'd box his face up.
Luke Thomas just broke huge news about the UFC and Dana White. Luke, one of the most reliable MMA journalists for over a decade, confirmed that a lot of power has been taken away from Dana White. He's no longer the person making the most important decisions in the company. That responsibility now largely falls to Mark Shapiro, who wields far more influence in the UFC than Dana does. This shift came after the UFC's new TV deal with Paramount and CBS. Luke explains that this could change how the UFC operates moving forward. Until now, fans could rely on Dana to deliver the best fights and the best matchups, but with the new structure, UFC politics may start playing a bigger role, and fans might not get the same type of matchmaking that prioritizes pure competition over corporate decisions. Essentially, Dana White remains the public face of the UFC, but the real power behind the scenes has shifted to Shapiro. The implications for fights, fighter careers, and overall matchmaking could be significant, and fans should start paying attention to how this change affects the company in the near future. Let's dive into what Luke had to say.
The way a broadcast looks, the way it's shown to you, all the different elements, who's on it, what they're saying, this is very Dana driven. But in terms of like how the company is structured and the broader decisions that it makes, those have been removed from him. So I'm not saying he's a figurehead, but he's not the guy that he was. One of the guys that has kind of stepped up as somebody who's got a lot of opinions about the company is Mark Shapiro, the COO of TKO.
Yeah.
And if you hear Mark Shapiro talk, he says shit that should make you nervous. For example, saying stuff like, oh, we can put fights on at the Apex and people don't even know if we're in another town or not because it all just looks so great. And I'm like, Mark, we can tell, buddy. We can definitely tell when you're in the Apex, okay? That's very clear. But then the other part is, he'll say things about, structuring the product in a way. He's not trying to, make it the very best each time. He's trying to deliver a large slate of content all at once.
Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong is now the co-main event of UFC 324 after Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes was postponed due to an injury. Kayla had to pull out, leaving fans disappointed, but the UFC shuffled things around. Meanwhile, a lot of fans are calling for Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo to be promoted to the main card since it's rare for a matchup of this caliber to be on the prelims. It's a massive #1 contender fight at bantamweight, and Team Khabib is working non-stop to put Umar back in title contention. Speaking of Team Khabib, Islam Makhachev has shut down all talk of returning to lightweight for a fight with Ilia Topuria. He doubled down, saying there's nothing for him there. He already held the lightweight belt. No one beat him, and he's not interested in chasing it again. Islam's staying put at welterweight, focused on defending his belt and continuing his dominance. Here's what Islam had to say in an interview with Russian channel Match TV.
I'm not planning to return to lightweight. I already had the belt there and no one beat me. I just left the belt and moved up. Why would I go back down? For a belt? That doesn't interest me. If he wants to move up, then welcome. He can move up because he has nothing to lose, because if he loses, he goes back down to lightweight and defends his belt there. This fight is more needed for Topuria than for me. I have already been the lightweight champion, and I definitely won't go down. From my perspective, it wouldn't be appropriate to call out a fighter from a lower weight class who just claimed the championship. He hasn't proven anything yet at lightweight. He still has a lot of work there. Arman Sarukian calls him out every day and asks to fight him, but Ilia stays quiet. But if fans in the UFC want this fight, then I'm ready. No problem at all.
That's it from MMA Psycho. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for daily MMA news.